What's up, guys? It's Robbie. So today we're going to get into 3 uncommon tests that cyclists can use to address hip, pelvis, and spine mobility and asymmetries. Now, we're going to get into 3 things here. We're going to get into the tests themselves, a little bit about what they mean, and then some of the basic things based on your findings that you will need to start with in order to travel the right path and start to make an impact on these movement problems. Let's get to 3 uncommon tests that cyclists can use to figure out the hip pelvis spine connection. All of my testing and my assessment starts in standing, and this first of these uncommon tests is in fact in standing. So we're gonna take a normal squat and we're gonna throw a major curveball at your body. So we're gonna get set up, feet shoulder width apart. Really what I would say, a big important piece to this is that your feet are slightly outside or on the outside of the hips. Now you're gonna wanna watch the ankle mobility here. We don't just wanna move at the ankles. So I'm gonna have you line up on railroad tracks here and we're gonna internally rotate both hips. So my feet are where they are. I'm gonna try to let them be dead. I'm gonna swing one hip all the way in, swing the other one all the way in. I gotta be careful now not to just let my ankle roll in. I'm trying to let that ankle be dead weight, and then I'm gonna walk them in a little bit further. So the first assessment I get is what I feel in my hips and in my back while I'm getting set up. Typically, as we set up, we're gonna be a little bit more forward bent. The next step is to come up all the way straight and assess how you feel. Do I have tension in my hips here? Do my hips wanna roll away? Do I have any tension in my back? So before I go into my squat, I'm gonna readdress that hip rotation, making sure that I'm not just twisting the feet in. Cool, I'm set. Now, I'm gonna go down and be careful with this. This is a pretty aggressive motion, and no, I don't recommend that you squat like this. So, keeping my feet glued to the floor, base of the big toe, outside of the foot, and heel are always my 3 contact points. Unless I'm doing something crazy, I'm gonna sink down into a squat as low as I can go, and I can let my back round here. I don't need to keep an absolutely flat back. I'm gonna pause here for 2 breaths. I won't breathe a bunch of times and make you listen to that, by the way. So I'm gonna note what I feel. For me, my ankles are fighting, but mainly it's mid-back tension, mid to low back tension, and I'm getting tension on the outside of my hips here. Now, if you're gonna try these tests, I recommend, by the way, that you record them just like I'm doing right now, so you can run that tape and see what's actually happening. So now I've popped up, I wanna do another assessment. How does my body feel when I come out of the motion? If I'm a little bit tense, I'm gonna stroll around a little bit. I'm not, so I'm gonna keep going. All right, my next 2 tests are gonna be from the floor. So I'm sitting here, again, you're gonna wanna record these so that you have a visual to go back to. We're gonna get into what I call it the S-sit position. It's called 90-90 as well. And the big thing here, we're gonna set up with the front foot straight in front of my midline. So if I take my midline, front foot should line up there. Back leg bent to 90 degrees at the knee, so is the front, by the way. And the knee is pretty far in front of the body, like we're talking 30 degrees here, and I should be able to see foot here, like I'm not tucked all the way back. That's certainly not 90 degrees. So 90 degrees here, you'll likely start off in this direction. So just relaxed, you're leaning away from the back hip here, and the test is simply gonna be to orient your shoulders over top of your hips. So you're gonna shift on over, and you're gonna note what you feel here. So boom, here's my test. Now I'm gonna take my hands away. I'm looking for, okay, what do I feel on this side? What do I feel over here? And then how is my back feeling? And a big key here too is how much effort it takes to keep me here. I would say if I were to rate my effort, here it's about 4 out of 10. Like it does wanna push me here, but I can hold it without straining. I can sit here and I can talk comfortably. Thank you, Penelope, that's my dog's name. I can talk comfortably about what we're doing here, right? Like I can sit in this position, I could read a book, I could do some breathing exercises, I could meditate, you get the idea. So now that we've looked at this side, we're gonna flip it over to the other side. As you transition out of the position, note what you feel in the hips, note how your back reacts, those are important details. Bringing it over to the other side, again, same setup. Midline here, 30 degrees in front, 90 degrees at both knees. We'll start leaned away from this back side. And now I'm gonna shift my body weight over here. And what I find, and there's often, almost always, an asymmetry here with most cyclists. So I've got my hands still glued to my legs. I'm kind of forcing the shoulders over, but now I'm gonna try to relax into it, bring my hands off. And for me, what I find is this is a lot harder to hold. To actually hold right here, this is a 7, 8 out of 10 effort. This is not somewhere where I would read, breathe, or meditate. That would get pretty uncomfortable pretty quick. So we're noting how does the hip and the leg feel over here? And we're noting same thing on the other side, if there's any tension on this externally rotated hip. And then what do I feel in my back? So for me, it's all in the side here and then deep in the back around the QL. I'm really fighting to hold this position. So again, you've got this tape rolling. Doing these tests, you're gonna wanna record so that you can go back and look at them. So that's test number 2. Now, for our third test, we're still on the ground. We're gonna get set up profile view. So you're looking at yourself from the side here. I wanna make sure that when you're videoing it, your whole body is in frame. So I can see hands, head, feet, toes, all of that good stuff. So hips are right over top of the knees, hands are right underneath of the shoulders. Your classic tabletop position. And what you're gonna do here is you're gonna rotate both feet out, and this is hip internal rotation. So if you wanna dig the toes in to see how it feels and get there, that's cool. But when you go into the rock backs, you're gonna point the toes down at the ground. Try to keep the feet as relaxed as possible. I'll double down on the rotation, and there's 2 parts to this test. So the first one is to fully round. So if it's a cat-cow, this is our cat position. And we are going to rock back as far as we can go, making sure that back stays rounded. Dig, dig, dig. Now, you're looking for what you feel in the hips here. And for me, that's gonna be tension, boom, right here. And that's pretty equal on both sides. I will tell you that I have less hip internal rotation on the left than the right. More so than looking at that on the video, you're kind of eyeballing that and you're seeing how that feels. Like, which side are you more restricted on? Spoiler alert, it should be consistent across all 3 for most people, although there might be some scenarios where you see that that squat position is different than these other 2 tests. So I'm rocked all the way back. I'm gonna take about 30 seconds to see if my hips will release and let me go deeper. Keep that rounding of the back. Boom, I am getting deeper. My hips are allowing me to settle in, although now I start to get some tension in the knees, so that's another thing to note. The second part of the test is gonna be come back up, kind of reset your internal rotation, and then you're gonna arch as far as you can. Hold this position and note what you feel. At this point, it would be common, gotta test it for yourself, but it would be common to start to feel tension in the hips already. And now I'm gonna rock back. And now with the pelvis flipped forward, so this is the anterior pelvic tilt relative to the cat, which is posterior pelvic tilt, I'm gonna have a lot less motion, maybe even only 20%. So I'm here, I rock back. Whew, what do we feel? We feel a ton of tension in the hips. I'm gonna hang here about half the time. So we're gonna do about 15 seconds, see if it lets me go any further. I'm moving a little bit further, but man, this tension is really building in the hips. So there's test number 3. So that is all 3 of our uncommon tests. In the next section here, I'm gonna go back to the tape and I'm gonna analyze my own motion so we can talk about what that means and you can apply that for yourself.
All right, let's analyze me here. So when I line this up, I'm not getting as much internal rotation on my left hip as the right. Now, my foot is further inwards, but that's because of shin rotation, tibial rotation, and ankle motion. When we see where my knees are at as I set up, and then as I go down, I've got less twist at the hip. So we can't be fooled there by the position of the foot. We're looking at the thigh and the kneecap and of course how it feels to determine that limitation. The other thing is I drop back on my left side to try to clear more internal rotation. In 90-90, we see the same thing. Right side, I can sit into that pretty comfortably, but then on the left side, I really struggle. I get a lot of tension at the front and around the side of my left hip, and then I'm getting my back driven into side bend, and my QL has to fight like hell to try to release so that I can sit up there. So what I'm seeing is a global, actually I should say regional limitation of my hip and pelvis motion, and it is affecting the back rather than the back affecting the hip and pelvis motion. So my back is bearing the consequences of my lack of mobility in the left hip here. So thumbs up there. I can sit into that pretty well. And when I look at the other side here, go ahead and switch it over. I've got probably about an inch of room more between the floor and my glute. And you can see that spine just kind of wants to twist out of the way. I don't have the range of internal rotation there. So we're developing a pattern. Now on this one, a lot of this is feel, and of course because I know myself, but here I can't get my left hip into as much rotation there either. Now I wouldn't have to look at that to tell that. I can just feel like, man, that feels crappy. If you just take a glance down at your legs though, you'll see that, and from the profile view you can kind of see that as well. If I videoed this from behind, you would definitely see it. So the summary of what we're finding here is that Robbie has some limitations of his hip motion, certainly with internal rotation, and it's certainly stronger on the left side. Now, this isn't the complete test. This isn't the be all end all for cyclists, but it is a really good way to dig deeper into the relationship between the hips, pelvis, and spine to get an idea of the finer points of the root cause of what might be going on with my pedal stroke, or if I had back pain, what's going on with my back.
So each of these three tests has a strong bias toward internal rotation in combination with pelvis movement. So we've likely found some common things from test to test, if not kind of the exact same feels and the exact same struggles. Now, regardless of what you found, or regardless of where you find yourself on these tests, I'm confident that these four of my favorite exercises will be a reasonable starting point. Like, we're just getting our feet wet here. We don't need to go too crazy with exercises that are going to jam you into your end range. The whole goal is to move with your body here to open up more motion, not to force it. So let's dive into these four things. They'll be a good starting point for almost anybody. Even if you did pretty well with some of these tests, going through these motions will help you improve the quality of your hip, pelvis, and spine mechanics.
So let's dive in here. The first exercise is a simple side glide on the wall. So you're gliding your lumbar spine sideways. Segments are closing down on the backside, away from the wall, opening up towards the wall, and you're getting the pelvis shifting on the hips here. Should be pretty comfortable, but note the tendency to twist or bend. This is one of my favorites. If I'm known for one exercise, honestly, it might be this one. We're going to slide the hips forward for this second exercise on the top side, so on either side when you flip around. It is a shift of the knee over the other knee, and then you're going to settle a little bit deeper into that, almost as if you're compressing and rotating into that bottom hip. Now, when I pull the roller, I'm just showing you the motion. I don't recommend that you do this without the roller. It's just uncoordination waiting to happen, but that's the motion that you're looking for. Now, a key point with this is that you're not foam rolling the thighs. You're not looking to squeeze that roller at like 80% intensity. You're looking to slide forward and use that roller as a vehicle to allow your hips to shift more smoothly. So from this angle, you can clearly see that top leg rotating forward, top pelvis rotating forward with the hip gliding with it. And we're closing down on that bottom side. Once you get to the end range, press a little bit harder, see what kind of range you've got. You may feel a little compression on the bottom side, but that shouldn't be painful. Ultimately, your back stays fairly straight here, although it will rotate forward a little bit at the end of the range. Now, for this third exercise, we're going to set up in kneeling here. Knee is right in front of the hip. Remember that. This could be commonly thought of as an exercise for thoracic or upper back rotation, but I want you to focus on the hips and the pelvis here. So you're actually going to focus most of your effort on rotating backwards on either side with the pelvis on your stable hips. So don't worry too much about the upper back. I don't want to see a lot of cramping around the spine through the mid part of your back here. Now, when I show you this side, I'm going to show you an error, and I'm going to leave it in here for you. Rotating this way, everything's okay. When I come out, I'm going to see a trap. I want to deflect my stiff left hip outwards. So what you're going to see there is you're going to see my knee track over towards Penelope. I want to see my knee right in front of the hip. So it's eclipsing the hip, if you will. Keep that in mind. Now, we're going to drop into what I call a kickstand position. So most of the weight's on the front foot. It's evenly distributed through the base of the big toe, the outside of the foot, and the heel. I'm going to hinge down where half of this motion is going to be with a flat back. But once I get that tension in the hamstring, I'm going to let myself rotate down so my fingertips are going towards the outside of my foot, towards the pinky toe. So straight, and then I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to get a twisting motion at the bottom of the range. Now, we're looking at about a 30-degree knee bend here. You're certainly not going into a crouch, but you don't have to try to keep this knee straight. That'll just really jam you up. Again, half of that motion is a nice clean hinge where you've got a pretty flat back. And then the second part of it, you're actually going to twist through the spine, nice and easy. Don't jam yourself up, and rotate the fingertips towards and outside of that foot that you've got the pressure on. So now that you've got a clear picture of how your hips, pelvis, and spine move together and a blueprint to start to work on it, you've got what you need to make a difference in your hip mobility, your pedaling mechanics, and should put a dent in any back, hip, or sciatic pain that you're having. Now, it's not the be-all, end-all, but these are a very good start in terms of tapping into our natural mechanics and letting the body do its thing. So now that you've got a better idea of your hip, pelvis, and spine mechanics and a pretty simple blueprint to start to address those things, you've got what you need to get consistent. So we're looking at 3 to 4 times a week. You could do them more frequently, but 3 to 4 times a week to establish a foundation. And I'm confident these will help you to pedal smoother, feel freer through your hips, and it should help to put a dent into any kind of back pain problems that you're having. Of course, it's not the be-all, end-all, but it is a very good start. If you want to consult a little bit deeper with me, I'm happy to talk to you anytime. I've got my call link down in the description. You can go ahead and book a call with me. If you want to check out my Instagram, it's @racewithrobbie. Shoot me a DM, say what's up. I will get back to you personally there. My hope is that this was helpful enough to give you a starting point to dig a little bit deeper and start to enact a solution to some of the common but deeper problems that cyclists have in terms of coordinating the hips, pelvis, and spine on the bike. Have a great day. Ride pain-free. I'll see you next time.